Nobody laughed out loud when Lena Qureshi walked into the intake hall of Station Ara. That would have been rude, and most species in the Galactic Coalition at least pretended to have manners. But the silence was worse than laughter. It was the silence of 100 alien recruits looking at a small human woman and deciding, in the same breath, that she did not matter. Station Ara was the Coalition's joint military academy, a massive orbital ring where the best young warriors from dozens of species trained together. The recruits, standing in that hall, were the pride of their worlds. Some had natural armor thick enough to stop bullets. Others could move so fast the eye could not follow. A few could calculate a battlefield in their heads faster than a computer. And then there was Lena. 5'2", 110 pounds. No clothes, no armor, no venom. Just brown skin, dark eyes, and a bag slung over one shoulder that looked too heavy for her frame. She was assigned to Unit 17, but her squad mates did not hide their disappointment. Gorath was a Brolian, nearly 8 feet tall, and covered head to toe in plates of natural bone armor. His species were born warriors. They settled arguments with headbutts that could crack stone. He looked at Lena the way a mountain might look at a pebble. Scylla was a Fenari, a species that resembled sleek predatory cats walking upright on 2 legs. She had 4 arms, each one ending in retractable claws, and reflexes so fast she could snatch a fly out of the air without looking. She glanced at Lena once, then turned away as if she had already forgotten her. Davin was a Hekari. His people were built like walking boulders, short but enormously wide, with skin like stone and strength that could bend metal. He said nothing when he saw Lena. He rarely said anything at all. Ren was a Telosai, tall and thin with an insect-like body and compound eyes that saw everything at once. His species processed information faster than most computers. He looked at Lena, and his antennae twitched in what she would later learn was the Telosai expression for pity. Their drill instructor was Commander Havoc, a grizzled old Brolian with cracks running through his bone plates and one eye that did not open all the way anymore. He had trained soldiers for 30 years and had no patience for weakness on the first day. He lined up Unit 17 and walked down the row. He stopped in front of Lena. "What is your species classification?" he asked, though he already knew. "Human, sir. Death world origin. Soul system." Death world, Havoc repeated, as if tasting the word. "Your planet is classified as a death world, and yet your species sends me this." He did not gesture at her. He did not need to. Everyone understood. The first physical assessment confirmed what everyone already believed. Lena could not match a single member of her squad in any measurable category. She was not the strongest. She was not the fastest. She could not take the most damage. She could not process tactical data the quickest. In every test, across every metric, she ranked last in Unit 17. Dead last. The other recruits were not cruel about it, not exactly. They simply acted as though she was not there. In squad formations, no one stood next to her. In the mess hall, no one sat at her table. During drills, no one passed to her, covered for her, or called her name. She was invisible. After the first week, Commander Havoc called her into his office. The room was small and smelled like metal. He sat behind a desk that looked too small for his massive frame and studied her with his one good eye. "Qureshi, you have 2 weeks. 2 weeks for what, sir? To prove you belong in a combat unit. Your scores are the lowest in your squad. The lowest in this entire intake class. If nothing changes, I will reassign you to logistic support." Lena stood very still. Her face showed nothing. "Do you understand?" Havoc pressed. "Yes, sir. Do you have anything to say?" "No, sir." He stared at her for a long moment, then waved his hand. Dismissed. Lena walked back to her quarters. She did not slam the door. She did not cry. She did not call home. She sat on the edge of her bunk, which was comically oversized because it was built for species twice her size, and she pulled out her datapad. She opened the training manual for Brilliant Combat Doctrine, then the Fenari manual, then the Hekari manual, then the Telosai Tactical Processing Guide. She read them all, one after another, making notes in the margins. She cross-referenced weaknesses with strengths. She built charts. She mapped patterns. Outside her window, the stars turned slowly as Station Thura rotated through the void. Lena read until the artificial lights dimmed for the night cycle, and then she kept reading in the dark, the glow of her datapad the only light in the room. Nobody on Station Thura knew what she was doing. Nobody cared. She was the smallest, the weakest, the most forgettable recruit in the entire academy. But Lena Qureshi was not studying to catch up. She was studying to see what no one else could see. Scylla noticed it first, because Finari noticed everything. The human was watching them. Not the obvious kind of watching, not staring or following people around. It was quieter than that. During drills, while everyone else was focused on winning, Lena Qureshi was focused on seeing. Her eyes moved constantly, tracking movements, pauses, habits. She watched the way Gorith shifted his weight before a charge. She watched the way Ren's antennae twitched right before he made a decision. She watched Davin's footwork, Scylla's striking patterns, even the timing of Commander Havoc's whistle. Scylla did not say anything about it. She simply filed it away the way her species filed away all information about potential threats that on the 9th day of training, Unit 17 was thrown into a squad combat drill against Unit 12. It was a standard elimination exercise. 2 squads entered an arena filled with obstacles and cover positions, and they fought with training weapons that delivered painful but harmless electric shocks on contact. Last squad standing won. Unit 17 had lost every squad drill so far. Gorith did what he always did. He lowered his armored head and charged straight at the enemy line, trusting his bone plates to absorb whatever they threw at him. It worked for about 10 seconds before 3 members of Unit 12 flanked him and hit him from the sides where his armor was thinnest. He went down cursing. Scylla did what she always did. She moved fast and struck hard, taking out one enemy recruit with a beautiful four-armed combination strike. But she committed too far forward, and a second enemy caught her from behind. She was eliminated. Davin held his position like a living wall, but without support on his flanks, he was surrounded and overwhelmed. Ren calculated firing angles with perfect precision, but froze for 2 full seconds when Unit 12 split into an unexpected formation that his models had not predicted. That hesitation cost him. Lena was the last one standing. She did not try to fight Unit 12 head-on. She moved through the chaos like water through rocks. When a large Brolian from the other squad charged at her, she sidestepped at the last moment and let him crash into a wall. When 2 Finari tried to corner her, she threw a piece of debris to the left, and when they both reflexively tracked it with their predator eyes, she slipped right and put a training shot into one of them. She lasted 45 seconds alone against 4 remaining enemies. She even took out one more before they finally got her. It was not a victory. Unit 17 still lost. But for the first time, Lena was not the first one eliminated. She was the last. Nobody congratulated her. Nobody said a word. But there was a shift, small and almost invisible, like the first crack in ice before a thaw. That evening in the mess hall, Lena sat alone as usual. Her datapad was propped against her water cup, and she was sketching something with quick, precise strokes. Lines, arrows, positions. A tactical diagram. Gorith walked past her table on his way out. He was still angry about the loss, and his heavy footsteps shook the floor. But something on her screen caught his eye. He stopped. "What is that?" he asked. His voice was rough, but it was the first time he had spoken to her without mockery or dismissal. Lena did not look up. "Counterformation for the drill we lost this morning." Gorith stared at the screen. The diagram showed 5 positions arranged in a pattern he did not recognize. Each position was labeled with a squad member's name and a set of specific movement instructions. His position was at the front, as expected, but the angles were different. The spacing was different, and there were lines showing exactly where each member would cover the other's blind spots. He stared at it for a long time. Then he walked away without another word. Lena kept drawing. Meanwhile, the mood on Station Thara was changing in ways the recruits did not fully understand. Instructors held meetings behind closed doors. Training schedules were rearranged without explanation. Extra ammunition was loaded into the simulation bays. Commander Havoc was seen in the communications center at odd hours, his scarred face grim. The reason came in fragments. Whispered conversations in corridors. A news feed someone left open on a common terminal. The Severed Hand, a rogue faction that had been raiding frontier outposts for months, had destroyed a supply station only 2 systems away. 43 dead. The attack had been fast, coordinated, and brutal. The war that everyone thought was far away was getting closer. Lena heard the whispers like everyone else. But unlike the others, she did not react with bravado or fear. She simply added new variables to her tactical diagrams. She studied severed hand attack patterns from publicly available reports. She noted their preferred formations, their weapon types, their tendency to target communication arrays first. She was preparing for something nobody had asked her to prepare for. Late that night, in her quarters, she pulled up the combat replay from that morning's drill. She watched it 3 times. On the 3rd viewing, she paused at the exact moment Goreth went down and drew a line on her datapad showing where he should have been standing, instead 0.2 feet to the left. That was all. 2 feet, and he would have survived the flank. She saved the file and closed her eyes. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a plan was forming. Not a plan to survive the academy. A plan to make Unit 17 into something no one expected. She just needed them to listen. The simulation was called Blackwell. Every recruit at Station Thuron knew its reputation. It was a multi-squad assault scenario designed to test coordination under pressure, and it had a failure rate of over 70% among first-year squads. The objective was simple: storm a fortified enemy position, disable the defense grid, and hold the position for 3 minutes. Simple to explain. Nearly impossible to execute. Unit 17 was thrown into it on a Tuesday morning with no warning. Commander Havoc stood at the observation window above the simulation bay, arms folded, his one good eye watching like a hawk that IT fell apart in under 90 seconds. Goreth charged the front entrance because that was what Brillians did. He smashed through the first barrier and took out 2 simulated defenders before a turret he had not seen shredded his shield rating. He was eliminated before he even reached the inner room. Scylla flanked left, moving fast and low, exactly the way she had been trained. But she pushed too far ahead without support. Crossfire from 2 angles caught her in a kill zone. She lasted 8 seconds longer than Goreth. Davin held the rear entrance like a living wall, absorbing fire with his thick hide. But no one came to support him. No one even told him what was happening at the front. He stood alone, taking hits, until his shield rating drained to 0. Ren positioned himself on an elevated platform with a perfect view of the battlefield. His compound eyes processed everything. He calculated optimal paths, firing solutions, enemy positions. But when the simulation AI threw a randomized variable into the scenario, an unexpected flanking force from a direction that should have been sealed, his calculations collapsed. He froze for 4 seconds. In combat, 4 seconds was a lifetime. He was eliminated standing still. Lena was the last one moving. She tried to call out adjustments on the squad channel. Goreth pulled back. Scylla, wait for cover. Ren, ignore the anomaly and recalculate. But nobody listened. The channel was full of grunts, curses, and static. She was eliminated 12 seconds later, alone and unsupported. Commander Havoc did not yell when they reassembled in the debriefing room. That would have been Kinder. Instead, he played the full replay on the main screen while 6 other squads watched. Every mistake, every failure, every moment of stupidity was displayed in high definition for everyone to see. Unit 17, Havoc said when the replay ended. The worst performance of the day. Dismissed. The walk back to their squad quarters was silent. Then the silence broke. This is because of the flanking force. Goreth snarled, pointing a massive armored finger at Ren. You were supposed to spot threats. You froze. Ren's antennae flattened against his head. The variable was outside predicted parameters. My models did not account for it. Your models are useless, Scylla hissed. Her 4 arms were crossed tight against her body, a Finari sign of deep frustration. And you, she turned to Goreth, charged him like a blind animal. Again, I am a Brilliant. We do not hide behind walls. No, you die in front of them. Davin said nothing. He stood in the corner with his stone-like arms folded, but his jaw was tight, The argument spiraled. Gorith blamed Scylla. Scylla blamed Ren. Ren blamed the simulation AI. Nobody blamed themselves. Stop. The word was quiet, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned. Lena was sitting on a bench against the wall. She had not moved during the entire argument. Her datapad was on her knee, and her face was calm. Every single one of you is blaming someone else, she said, and every single one of you is wrong. Gorith's eyes narrowed. Careful, human. You charge the front alone, Lena continued, her voice steady. No cover, no support request. Scylla flanked without waiting for a distraction. Davin held the rear, but had no communication with anyone. Ren froze because nobody gave him a framework for handling chaos. And I failed because I tried to coordinate a squad that was not listening. The room was very quiet. We did not lose because any one of us is bad, Lena said. We lost because we fought as 5 strangers. 5 individuals with no plan and no trust. She placed her datapad on the table between them. On the screen was a formation diagram. 5 positions, each one labeled. Lines connected them showing fields of fire, movement paths, and communication links. At the center of the web was a single small dot labeled with her own name. This is how we win Blackwell, she said. Gorith at the front, but angled 30 degrees left where his armor is thickest. Davin anchoring the right corridor. Scylla running the short flank with a 2-second delay after Gorith draws fire. Ren on Overwatch with a simplified decision tree. 3 options maximum, so he does not lock up. And me in the center, feeding information to all of you. Gorith stared at the diagram. You put yourself in the most exposed position. Someone has to be in the middle. I am the smallest target. Nobody agreed that night. Gorith walked out without a word. Ren retreated into silence. Davin simply stared at the wall. But the next morning, before the artificial sun cycle had fully brightened, Lena was alone on the training ground running drills. Scylla found her there. The Fenari stood at the edge of the field for a long moment, her 4 arms hanging loose, her tail flicking back and forth. Then she walked forward and said 2 words. Show me. By the end of the week, they ran Blackwell again. They completed it faster than any recruit squad in 3 years. Commander Havoc watched the replay twice and said nothing. The rankings updated every 7 days on a massive display board in the main corridor of Station Nara. Every recruit walked past it at least twice a day. It was impossible to ignore, and it was designed that way. For 6 weeks, Unit 17 had been buried near the bottom. Now, after their Blackwell performance, they had jumped 11 places in a single update. Other squads noticed. Other instructors noticed. And not everyone was happy about it. Unit 9, the top-ranked squad, led by a massive Brolian named Ferric, made a point of walking past Unit 17 in the corridor. Ferric slowed down just enough to look at Lena, who was walking between Gorith and Scylla. So this is the squad that let a human carry them through Blackwell, Ferric said loud enough for half the corridor to hear. Interesting strategy. Use the small one as bait. Gorith's bone plates shifted, a Brolian warning sign. But before he could respond, Lena put her hand on his arm. Just a small touch, barely there. Keep walking, she said quietly. Gorith hesitated. His entire body was built for confrontation. Every instinct in his biology told him to lower his head and charge. But something in Lena's voice, calm and certain, reached past those instincts. He kept walking to Scylla's claws had extended slightly during the encounter. She retracted them with visible effort and glanced sideways at Lena. You should have let him hit Ferric. Then Gorith gets disciplined and we lose our front line for a week. Not worth it. Scylla blinked slowly. Among the Fenari, that was the equivalent of a respectful nod. Training continued, harder now. The instructors had increased the difficulty across the board, and everyone felt it. Longer runs, heavier loads, more complex simulations with higher stakes. Something was driving the acceleration, and the rumors about the severed hand grew louder every day. For Lena, the physical toll was becoming serious. Her alien squad mates had biological advantages she simply did not possess. Gorith's bone armor absorbed impacts that would shatter human bones. Scylla's forearms distributed load across twice as many muscle groups. Davin's stone-like skin healed minor damage within hours. Ren's exoskeleton supported his body like a built-in scaffold. Lena had skin, muscle, and willpower. The endurance course on day 43 nearly broke her. It was a 12-kilometer run through shifting terrain with obstacles that included climbing walls, water crossings, and low-gravity zones that played havoc with human inner ears. Every other member of Unit 17 finished within the time limit. Gorith finished first. Even Davin, who was not built for speed, finished with minutes to spare. Lena finished last. Not just last in her squad. Last in the entire intake class. She crossed the finish line with blood on her hand from the climbing walls, a torn muscle in her right leg, and her vision going gray at the edges. She made it 3 steps past the line before her legs gave out, and she dropped to her knees in the dirt. The medical officer, a 4-armed Fenari with gentle hands and worried eyes, reached her within seconds. After a quick scan, the recommendation was clear. 2 days of rest. No training. No exceptions. Lena showed up the next morning at 0500, 15 minutes before the squad assembly time. She was bandaged from her palms to her elbows. She walked with a visible limp. Her face was tight with pain. She was trying very hard not to show. Gorith was the first to see her. He stood very still for a moment, then walked over without a word. His massive, armored hands that could crush metal, reached down and carefully adjusted the straps of her gear pack. He loosened the one that crossed over her injured shoulder and tightened the waist belt to shift the weight to her hips, but he did not say anything. He did not need to. Scylla appeared beside Lena an hour later during a brief rest period. She sat down, tucked 2 of her 4 legs beneath her, and said, "There's a breathing technique my people use for managing pain. It is taught to Fenari hunters who are injured in the field. Slow inhale through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Exhale through the mouth for 8. It interrupts the pain signal to the brain." Lena looked at her. "You're teaching me a Fenari technique. I am teaching my squad mate how to keep functioning." Scylla paused. "Do not make it sentimental." Lena almost smiled. That evening, Commander Havoc summoned Unit 17 to a briefing room they had never been inside before. It was smaller than the usual rooms, with reinforced walls and a security lock on the door. The kind of room where serious things were discussed. "The severed hand hit another outpost yesterday," Havoc said without preamble. 61 dead. They're getting bolder and moving closer to core systems. High Command has decided to accelerate deployment timelines. He looked at each of them in turn. Unit 17 has been selected for Advanced Readiness Evaluation. If you pass, you will be certified for active deployment 6 months ahead of schedule. The room was silent for exactly 2 seconds. Gorith grinned, his bone plates shifting into what passed for a smile on a brilliant face. Scylla flexed all 4 arms, and her claws extended with a soft click. Davin cracked his massive knuckles, a sound like stones grinding together. Ren's compound eyes flickered rapidly as he ran calculations. Lena took a slow breath. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8, but then she nodded. "When do we start?" she asked. Havoc almost looked impressed. "Almost. Tomorrow. 0400. Do not be late." Share. The moon had no name, just a designation, DH7. It was a gray, airless rock with a thin dome covering the evaluation zone. Just enough atmosphere to breathe, but not enough to feel comfortable. The ground was uneven, covered in dust and broken stone. The sky above the dome was black and full of stars. Unit 17 stood at the entry point, fully armed with live training weapons. These were not the gentle shotguns from academy drills. These fired concentrated energy bolts that could burn through light armor. The combat drones they would face were military-grade, fast, armored, and programmed to kill. Safety overrides would prevent lethal hits on the recruits, but injuries were expected. Broken bones were common. Fear was the point. Lena checked her sidearm for the 3rd time. It felt light in her hands. Everything about her felt light compared to the others. Gorith was a fortress of bone and muscle. Scylla was coiled energy and blade-sharp focus. Davin was an immovable slab of living rock. Rin was a walking tactical computer with his compound eyes already scanning the terrain, and Lena was a small woman with a pistol and a plan. First wave in 60 seconds. Commander Havoc's voice crackled through the comm from the observation post high above the dome. Good luck, Unit 17. The drones came fast. The first wave was 12 units, coming from the north in a standard assault pattern. Lena called positions instantly. Gorith forward and left, drawing fire with his armored bulk. Davin forward and right, anchoring the line. Scylla running a tight flank behind cover to hit the drones from the side. Rin elevated on a rock formation, feeding targeting data. Lena stayed in the center, exposed but mobile, reading the battlefield and adjusting in real time. That IT worked beautifully. Wave 1 fell in under a minute. Wave 2 was harder, 18 drones from 2 directions. Lena shifted the formation, pulling Davin back to cover the south approach while Gorith held the north. Scylla moved like smoke between the 2 lines, striking and vanishing. Rin's data kept everyone a step ahead. Wave 3 was 24 drones with heavier armor. Gorith took 2 solid hits to his chest plate and kept fighting. Scylla caught a glancing blow on her lower left arm and did not even slow down. Davin absorbed fire like it was rain. 3 waves down. Unit 17 was performing flawlessly. Then the ground broke at a section of the training field. A reinforced platform covering an equipment tunnel below collapsed without warning. The crack was sudden and deafening. Dust exploded upward. Rin, who had been positioned on the edge of the platform for elevation, dropped straight down into the gap. His scream came through the comm, sharp and short, followed by the sound of metal bending and chitin cracking. Then silence. Rin, Scylla shouted. He is alive, Lena said, her voice cutting through the chaos. She could see his bio sign on her wrist display. Alive but pinned. His exoskeleton was cracked. He could not move. The evaluation was supposed to pause for emergencies. Automated safety protocols should have frozen the drones and sent medical teams. But nothing happened. The systems either malfunctioned or had not detected the collapse. Wave 4 launched. 20 combat drones, incoming from the east. They were down a squad member. Their tactical data feed was gone, and live drones were 30 seconds away. Gorith turned to Lena. Scylla turned to Lena. Davin turned to Lena. 3 aliens, each one stronger, faster, and tougher than she would ever be. All of them looking at the smallest person on the field. Lena did not hesitate. Gorith, Davin, hold the east line. Firing angles 30 and 60 degrees. Scylla, extract Rin. Use the south trench for cover. Go now. That leaves the center gap open, Gorith said. I know. You cannot hold that alone. Go. Gorith held her gaze for 1 second. Then he moved. Lena ran to the center of the field, the exact position where Rin had fallen. She was standing at the edge of a hole in the ground with a standard sidearm, no armor, no backup, and 20 drones closing fast. The first drone came over the ridge, and she shot it through its sensor eye. It crashed into the dust 3 meters from her feet. The next 2 came together. She dropped low, fired twice, hit one clean, and clipped the wing of the other. It spiraled, and she put a 3rd shot into it as it fell. Then they came in groups, 4 at a time. 5. She could not outshoot them all. So she moved. She rolled behind debris, popped up, fired, dropped again. She used the hole in the ground as a trench, ducking below the edge and rising just long enough to take a shot. Every movement was precise. Every decision was instant that a blast caught her shoulder guard and shattered it. She spun with the impact and kept firing. A second blast burned across her left leg. She dropped to one knee and kept firing. Scylla's voice came through the comm. Rin is free. Returning to line. Move faster, Lena said through gritted teeth. She put down the 9th drone, the 10th, the 11th. Her sidearm was overheating. Her hands were shaking. Her leg was bleeding. The squad reformed around her just as the last drones fell. Gorith arrived first, stepping in front of her like a living shield. Scylla landed beside her in a crouch, claws out. Davin filled the gap on her right. Rin, limping badly but alive, reached the line last. The final drone powered down. The evaluation ended. The training ground fell silent. Lena was on one knee, sidearms still raised, surrounded by the smoking wreckage of 11 drones she had destroyed alone. Blood ran down her arm. Dust covered her face. Her breathing was ragged and harsh in the quiet. Gorith knelt beside her. A Brolian kneeling was something most species never saw in their lifetime. "I was wrong about you," he said. Above them, on the observation deck, no one made a sound. The medical bay on station Thura smelled like antiseptic and warm metal. Lena lay on a bed that was like everything else on the station, built for someone twice her size. Her left leg was wrapped in a regeneration sleeve. Her shoulder was sealed with bioadhesive. A monitor beside her beeped softly, tracking her vitals with a green line that rose and fell like a calm sea. She was alone for exactly 14 minutes before the visit started. Gorith came first. He had a duck to get through the medical bay door, and even then his bone plates scraped the frame. He stood beside her bed, enormous and awkward, his hands hanging at his sides like he did not know what to do with them. "Umbrella," he said slowly. "Strength is the only measure of worth. A warrior's value is counted in how many enemies they crush, how many blows they survive, how much weight they carry. I have believed this since I was a child." He paused. His jaw tightened. "I looked at you on the first day and saw nothing. No armor, no mass, no threat. I called you breakable because I believed it. I believe you were a mistake sent here by a species that did not understand war." He looked at the floor. "I was the one who did not understand." He did not say anything else. He turned and walked out, and Lena noticed that he positioned himself in the corridor outside her door. Standing guard, a Brolian tradition reserved for family members, Scylla came next. She moved silently, as Fenari always did, and settled into the chair beside Lena's bed with her 4 arms folded neatly in her lap. Her tail curled around the chair leg. "I have never followed anyone," Scylla said. Her voice was quiet, almost soft, which was unusual for her. "Fenari hunt alone. We trust our own claws, our own eyes, our own instincts. To follow another's lead in battle goes against everything I was raised to believe." She looked at Lena with her sharp golden eyes. "When you told me to extract Ren, I did not question it. Not for 1 second. I did not even think about it. I just moved." She paused. "That has never happened to me before. I have never trusted anyone that completely." She reached out with one of her hands and briefly touched Lena's uninjured arm. Among the Fenari, voluntary physical contact was the deepest expression of trust. Then she left, her tail brushing against Lena's ankle as she passed. Another Fenari gesture, one that meant something Lena was only beginning to understand. Davin came third. He did not speak. The Hekari were not a species of many words. He walked in, stood beside her bed, and looked down at her with his deep-set, stone-colored eyes. Then he placed his massive hand, gently, so gently for something that could crush steel, on her uninjured shoulder. He held it there for 5 seconds. Then he nodded once, and left at IT was the most a Hekari could say without words. Ren came last. He moved slowly, still limping from his injuries. His cracked exoskeleton was patched with temporary sealant that would hold until his natural healing filled in the gaps. His compound eyes focused on Lena with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. "I have a confession," he said. "When I was assigned to this unit and I saw you for the first time, I ran the numbers. Height, weight, muscle density, bone strength, reaction time, sensory range. Every measurable variable. My calculations told me you were the weakest recruit in the coalition. Statistically insignificant. A rounding error." His antennae drooped. "My calculations were wrong. Not slightly wrong. Fundamentally wrong. I measured everything about you except the thing that mattered most, and I do not even have a word for what that thing is." Lena looked at him. "Stubbornness," she offered that Ren's antennae twitched. "That is not the right word, but it is close enough." Commander Havoc came after all the others had gone. He stood at the foot of her bed with his hands behind his back, his one good eye studying her the way he studied battlefield maps. "I'm not going to apologize for doubting you," he said. "Doubt is part of my job. I push recruits to see what they are made of. Most of them are made of exactly what I expect." He tilted his scarred head. You are not what I expected. In 30 years of training soldiers from 40 species, I have learned one thing. The most dangerous warriors are not the strongest or the fastest. They are the ones who make everyone around them better. You did not just pass the evaluation, Koreshi. You changed what Unit 17 is capable of. He placed a small metal pin on her bedside table. An active duty certification badge. Get some rest. You deploy in 72 hours. 3 days later, Unit 17 boarded a transport ship bound for the frontier. The vessel was gray and functional, built for carrying soldiers, not for comfort. The seats were hard. The engines hummed through the floor. Lena sat between Gorath and Scylla. Gorath had positioned himself on the door side of the ship so that his armored body was between her and any potential breach. Umbrella. This meant he considered her family. Scylla's tail was curled loosely around Lena's ankle. Davin sat across from her, his stone body angled slightly forward, a living shield. Ren's compound eyes moved constantly, tracking ship systems, running calculations, already preparing for what lay ahead. Lena looked out the viewport at the stars streaking past. For a moment, everything was quiet. No drills, no rankings, no one calling her weak. She smiled at IT was a small smile. Barely there. But it was real. Somewhere in the Galactic Coalition's military database, an entry would later read, Unit 17, under the informal tactical leadership of Specialist Lena Koreshi, became one of the most decorated small units in Coalition history. When asked in interviews what made the unit successful, every member gave the same answer: the human.